All right, here we go. That never gets old. What's going on, guys? Huh? What's up? Come on. Really? Hello everyone, welcome back. A little chilly out here today. I'm out here with the dogs. And we're gonna have a 14,000 mile review on the 2023 Rivian R1T. Now, as you know, my wife and I have both the R1T and the R1S. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below now. We're also gonna be doing a review on the R1S here in the near future. Between the two vehicles, we have about 26 to 27,000 all Rivian miles. So we have quite a bit of experience with the Rivian vehicles between the both of us, and we both got together and came up with all the things we like and dislike about it. So the first thing we're gonna do is go over all of the wear on the vehicle, the tires, exterior and interior wear items. Then we're gonna go ahead and go over the likes and dislikes of the R1T. So let's get started. Okay everyone, so here we are at the R1T. So let's just go ahead and take a look around. And the last thing I'm gonna do is measure the tread depth on the tires. Did that a little bit ago, and I still had between 7 and 8 seconds left, which is really good after 13 or 14,000 miles. So we'll check that again today. Now this truck does have a full PPF by XPEL, so we're not gonna see a whole lot of wear on the front of it. But if we did have any rock damage or anything like that, it would definitely put a mark in the PPF. But really, nothing wearing on the outside here that I can see. Everything looks to be in really good shape. So let's go ahead and take a look at the tailgate first. Now, it still works very well. Not really much wear or anything like that on here. I do use it, I more or less use it as a trunk, but the bed, well, yeah, hasn't really been used. I do slide stuff in and out. There's some minor marking on here, but not really much of anything to note. It does make some noise when I release it, but the body looks really good. So let's check the operation of the gear tunnel here real quick here. Now it does make that click sound when it comes down. It's not hitting anything. I think that's just a noise from the hinge, but it doesn't affect the operation of it at all. This area right here is very susceptible to wear. I do have some marking right in here. Now, I believe TWRAPS does sell a wrap for this, a vinyl wrap. Check the link in the video description or visit my TWRAPS store and you'll be able to pick up one of those, and that'll protect this area somewhat. But around the sides, if you're putting larger things in the gear tunnel, those areas are going to be more susceptible to wear. And that may or may not matter to a lot of you. This is not something that you're going to see very easily from the outside. You're only going to be able to see it if you're opening this area to put things inside of it. Now here on the passenger side, we can really see how much space you have inside of that gear tunnel. It goes all the way from one side of the truck to the other. And if you look up in there, you can actually see that little door right there is a pass-through, and that goes into the back seat where the center armrest is. And you can see there we have a 120 volt outlet, and then on the other side we have a 12 volt accessory. outlet as well. But there really is no wear on the outside of the truck at all. The charge port still works very well, opens and closes very well. I did have a service appointment. This piece was loose. Service tightened that up and it has not come loose again since. If we take a look at the inside of the truck here, all these areas, this armrest right here, still holding up very well. The seats are still in really good shape. Now, something that a lot of people have mentioned that it really doesn't make a difference to me, but if you look really closely right here, you can see that it's kind of pulling away a little bit. But I think that's gonna happen no matter what, folks. I don't think you're ever gonna get around that, seeing that on any of the seats, just because of that metal piece that's there and it's squeezing it. But everything inside of the vehicle, the headliner, all of it is holding up very well. Now here in the back seat, folks, one thing I'm gonna note is the seat belt. That can hit against this panel. We had the same issue in the Tesla. And Tesla wound up on the 2023 models carpeting or putting felt material on this whole panel. But the reason why, now if it hits in the back, it won't make that noise. But if it hits from the side, and it's very annoying when you're driving down the road, it can actually sound like a clunk. But you see what I've done here to prevent it from getting over there and making contact is I've actually wrapped it around the headrest here. Center armrest, still in very good shape. Rear display, all of it, the rear seats are all in really good shape. Passenger armrest here. Passenger seat. Some tiny bit of wrinkling in the bolsters here, but I think that's going to be normal. I mean, just from people getting in and out. And if we look at the seats, still in perfect shape, honestly. The cup holder, I had my concerns about the cup holder, but the cup holder is still perfect. And if you look down here, I actually have the EVBASE center console organizer in here. If you're interested in organizing your center console, go ahead and check for a link in the video description. You can pick that up. And I have a 20% discount code as well. And in the video description, I'll also have links to a lot of the accessories that I have on the truck if you're interested in any of those. But as we can see, folks, not really any wear on the inside at all. No wear on the outside. So as we're looking at the driver's side door here, I have this little bag in here, and this is from EV Outfitter. Looks very similar to the Rivian OE cases, but it's good. I put some video equipment in here. You can also put drink bottles in here and things and carry them with you. And you switch this around here, and the nice thing is it fits right in this door side here. We can also store like battery banks and things like that when we're out on our adventures. So check for a link in the video description if you want to pick one of those up. So we're on the road here in the Rivian R1T, taking a drive through beautiful Mount Airy, Maryland. And so I'm going to first go over my likes with the Rivian R1T. I think number one, it's a truck that does it all. It does everything. It's a truck. It can get you through some very serious off-road adventures. It does extremely well on-road. It can go from being a vehicle that rides comfortable and floaty like a big truck or big SUV, so a very comfortable ride, to a vehicle that sits lower and drives like a sports car and can carve up the turns. There's just so many things this truck does well. And if you have the quad motor, You get 835 horsepower, 908 pound-feet of torque. And with the quad motor, the Rivian can do something called torque vectoring. Torque vectoring is where when you're going through a turn, it can actually spin one wheel or provide power to one wheel in order to power you through that turn easier. So really a lot of handling benefits from the quad motor. But the dual motor Rivians are very capable as well. The dual motor performance is going to give you 665 horsepower, and just the standard dual motor is still going to give you 533 horsepower. That's a lot of power for this vehicle. The standard Rivian dual motor, the cheapest model, is going to give you a 0 to 60 of 4.5 seconds and 533 horsepower. So if you want to know the #1 reason why I absolutely love this Rivian, it's because it does everything well. It fills all the needs. You only need one vehicle to get basically everything. A truck, a sports car, an off-road adventure machine, just everything rolled into one, folks. The second item on the list has to be the over-the-air software updates. There's not really any other vehicle that does it the way Rivian does it, except for maybe Tesla. And the Rivian just has so much more capability when you put it up against the Tesla. The only thing that Tesla really has that the Rivian doesn't at this point in time is the charging network and the full self-driving autopilot features. Other than that, I think Rivian is just an excellent vehicle because of those over-the-air software updates. The over-the-air software updates not only allow Rivian to apply fixes to different issues with the vehicle, but they also allow Rivian to add new features. We saw that over and over. They improved the Driver Plus system. They improved the suspension. Since the Rivian has the kinetic ride control and the air suspension, Rivian can push updates to give you additional settings. Folks, how can you beat being able to change all these things with the vehicle and fix problems over the air without having to take half of your day, or sometimes even more than that, to take the vehicle into a dealer or service center to get a problem fixed? So this is just another reason why Rivian is a superior choice to just about every other vehicle out there. The next item on the list has to be the Driver Plus. The ability to auto steer, and now with the recent update, automatically re-enable the auto steer after you change lanes, is just a phenomenal feature. It takes all the stress out of long highway drives. All you have to do is sit back and monitor the vehicle and be ready to take over if and when needed, and it basically does everything else for you. Makes for a very relaxing experience. So just another excellent feature on the Rivian. The one thing I think they could do a little bit better is if they could automatically change the lanes like the Tesla could. I think that would really make it superb on the highways, to not have to manually take over to change the lanes, which, don't get me wrong, it's wonderful that it automatically re-enables itself now, but to have that auto lane change would be huge. So hopefully Rivian will introduce fully automatic lane changes in a future update. Now, another like about the Rivian has got to be the range. 352 miles on the dual motor and 328 miles here on the quad motor, but I can actually put the quad motor in conserve mode, which makes it a front wheel drive truck. And when I do that, I can get up to 347 miles of range. But one of the publications tested all the different electric vehicles and measured whether or not they met their stated range, their EPA range. And Rivian was one of the very few that actually exceeded their range. And if 350 miles is not enough for you, you have the Max Pack, which can go up to 410 miles on a single charge. The next item on the like list is all the different drive modes, folks. And if I go into this menu here, now here on the quad motor, I have all-purpose, I have a conserve mode, which, as I said before, makes this a front-wheel drive truck to get the maximum range. I have sport mode, I have a snow mode, and then I have a ton of different off-road modes. So tons of different drive modes, basically almost a different drive mode for every situation you could face on road or off. Just another one of the things that makes this vehicle so awesome. Next on the list, folks, is the air suspension and the adjustable damping of the suspension. So with the air suspension, I have 5 different ride heights. I have lowest, low, standard, which is the height that I'm usually in most of the time, high, and then highest. Now the high drive mode and the highest, they're mainly going to want to use those off-road. Mainly you're going to use standard and low in most of your on-road situations, but I pretty much keep it in standard all the time. You can have it automatically adjust the ride height, and what that does is if you go over 50 or 55 miles per hour, it'll automatically put the truck in the low ride height to get maximum efficiency. But I've found that the range and efficiency is so good on the Rivian, I really don't need to put the truck in the low mode. So I turn that off and just leave it in standard. Now, if I'm on a really, really long trip and I need an absolute maximum range, then I might put it in low manually. Otherwise, I leave it in standard ride height. The other thing is the suspension. So for example, if you're riding along and you have passengers with you, you probably want to put it in the soft drive mode. That's going to provide a really comfortable ride. I've had many passengers in here and they've all complimented on how well the Rivian rides. They said it's a really nice riding vehicle. That's because I keep it in soft mode most of the time. But sometimes I want to put it in the stiff mode. It'll automatically put it in stiff if I switch it to sport mode, but I will put it in stiff if I'm towing, or just if I want better handling and better steering response. But being able to change the steering responsiveness, the way the truck handles, all that kind of stuff with one button is just amazing. And it's another reason why I love the Rivian R1T. The last thing on the like list before we start getting into the dislikes is going to be the heated and ventilated seats. Now, the one thing that a lot of people complained about on the Tesla vehicles, specifically the Model Y and the Model 3, was the lack of a ventilated seat. Now, just to be clear, these are not cooled seats. They're ventilated. So what that means is if the temperature inside the truck is scorching hot, the seats are not going to cool off. The air conditioning has to do its job first, and then all the seats do is recirculate the air that's already in the cabin. Now folks, I love this truck. I pretty much love everything about it, but there are some things that I think Rivian could improve upon, and there are some little things that annoy me about it. Not enough to make me get rid of it, of course, but they're still worth mentioning for sure. So next we're going to get into the list of things that I kind of wish were a little bit better and things that I hope Rivian can improve in the future. Now, the first thing on the list of things that need improvement is going to have to be the Rivian service experience. Now, a lot of folks have complained, and rightfully so, that it takes forever to get a service appointment. Here in Maryland, they've dramatically improved. They're about a month to 2 months out. But I've heard, for example, in California, some of the service centers are so booked that you can't even schedule a service appointment. You have to contact Rivian and they determine when your service appointment is going to be. Others have said it's 4 to 5 months. This has been going on for a while. I know at least since April or May of 2023, and Rivian has to do better on this. The majority of car owners cannot afford to wait that long to get their vehicle repaired. That's not going to be acceptable. And for that very reason, anyone that's not able to be patient with service, I'm recommending at this point that they hold off on their Rivian purchase until Rivian can get this service experience figured out and get folks in there in a reasonable amount of time to get their vehicles taken care of. The other issue with service is the loaner vehicles. Up until about mid-December of 23, through Enterprise, you would get a Rivian vehicle if they were available. But now the last time I was in for service, and I've seen reports online that Enterprise is not wanting to give people the Rivian vehicles, they're wanting to give them something a lot cheaper. So I think Rivian needs to have their own loaner fleet and be able to provide their customers with a comparable vehicle to what they have as a loaner. I know this is kind of a nitpicky thing, and you should be happy with whatever you get, that you even get a loaner. I get that. But a lot of folks, when they spend a significant amount of money on a vehicle, are going to expect better from Rivian as far as having a vehicle they can use while theirs is in for service. The next item on the list is going to seem kind of nitpicky, but that's the lack of a heated middle seating position on the Rivian R1T here. Now, the reason why I bring it up is because Tesla on their Model Y does have a heated middle seat there in the back. And I think for the price range Rivian is selling these vehicles at, they really should have all three seating positions in the second row there heated. The next item also has to do with climate control, and that's the lack of a true tri-zone climate control in the Rivian. Now, they do have the second row display, but that display only mimics what's displayed on the main display as far as the temperature, and you can't adjust the temperature independent. You only have dual zone climate control. And I'm not sure if Rivian can do tri-zone climate control in a software update or not, but it's something I really would expect in a vehicle in this price range. And at the time of this video recording, that's something that's not available. The next item, and this is a really big one, folks, for an adventure vehicle, is not having a 12-volt accessory plug inside the vehicle. Neither the R1T nor the R1S now have a 12-volt port inside the truck. Now, the R1T does have a 12-volt accessory port in the gear tunnel, and the R1S has one in the cargo area, but they don't have one in the front. And a place where I really miss it is I have a backup camera for my travel trailer that's wireless, and I like to hook the screen up and be able to see in back of my trailer either when I'm backing up or when I'm driving down the road. And that really is a safety issue. The early model Rivians did have a 12-volt accessory plug up under the main display here in the front, but they did away with that later on, and it really is a pretty egregious omission in my opinion, being that this is an adventure vehicle. Now, I have two more items, and the next item is going to be one that I think everybody has mentioned, both on Rivian and on Tesla, and that's the lack of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I know they don't want to give up control of the user experience, but it's something that is desperately needed, and now I hear that GM is doing away with it as well, and I think it's just an awful, awful idea. At least give folks the ability to project the phone or do the Android Auto and CarPlay on a portion of the screen. And if you're concerned about the user experience, just put an alert up there that it's not Rivian software or it's not Tesla software. It's from a third party. But at least give us the option to use those services if we want to. Now, the last item on the list relates to noise, vibration, and harshness. And it's not terrible, folks. The Rivian is much better than Tesla. I can tell you the road noise inside of my Tesla Model Y, both of them, was just awful. It was like one big, huge echo chamber. The Rivian is much better, but there is still some wind noise and some road noise that makes it through. And in an electric vehicle, you hear everything. So in future iterations, I'm hopeful that Rivian can reduce the noise, vibration, and harshness that comes through into the passenger compartment. Mainly the wind noise and the different suspension and road noises that come through. There's one bonus item on the list, folks, of things that I think Rivian needs to improve, and that is the wireless charger. There's two problems with the wireless charger. One is that your iPhone devices cannot reliably charge because they have a larger camera bump. So the charging pad itself needs to be redesigned for that. The other issue is that the charging pad allows the phone to move around. And for an adventure vehicle, that's also a problem. Now there are solutions. I released another video showing a MagSafe pad by TWRAPS. And then there are also folks who have 3D printed dividers which keep the phone in its position so it reliably wirelessly charges without moving around. But I think Rivian could really redesign this wireless charging pad and make one that's just as awesome as the rest of this truck. I'll tell you one thing that never gets old, though, in a Rivian, whether it's an R1T or an R1S, and that is the 0 to 60. That never gets old. I don't care how many times you do it, it never gets old. That adrenaline rush, that feeling of just taking off, it's just an awesome feeling. Now, in order to get full power from the R1T or the R1S, you're going to need to put it in sport mode. And so I'm just going to tap on my screen here, and I'm going to tap on the sport mode icon. Now that will put me in the low ride height, so make sure you're in a place or that it's otherwise safe to lower the ride height of the vehicle. But putting it in sport mode is going to give you the full 835 horsepower and 908 pound-feet of torque that the quad motor has to offer, or if you're in the dual motor, the full 665 horses. Well, the other camera's not working, but I'm going to see if I can get a 0 to 60 here at this stoplight. Doesn't seem to be anything in front of me. All right, here we go. That never gets old. That was only at 40% state of charge. I wish my other camera was working, but of course when I want to do a 0 to 60 run, it decides it's not going to work. But I guess that's the way it always happens, right? Anyway, folks, those 0 to 60 runs will put a smile on your face every single time. Unless, of course, the flashing lights are behind you. That's going to wrap it up for this one, folks. What do you think of the Rivian R1T? Do you plan on picking one up, or do you have one? What's your experience been? Let us know down in the comments section. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you get notified. And thank you guys so much for watching.